Ashley George, and I'm from the Lanier County Advocate, and I'm here for another installation of Tell Me a Story. Today I have with me George Banks, a retired farmer and banker. We're going to be talking about a young man that died overseas during World War II named Lloyd McKelvin. First, can you just tell me a little bit about Mr. McKelvin, kind of who he was and a little bit about him?
I knew him when after he and his father were, the two of them, living together, and they lived approximately 2.5 miles west of Lakeland, just off Highway 37, and in the forks of Boyd Road and Highway 37, and I remember seeing them there, and I remember seeing them walking the road. I'd be riding a bicycle maybe on 129 or 37, and had seen them more than one occasion walking either to or from work, that 2.5 or 3 miles. And their early life, that's the biggest part I knew about them. I never knew anything about their mother, Mr. McKelvin's wife, and but I knew Lloyd here in town more than I did out at his, after he was a teenager or maybe grown by the time I knew him. Yeah. Yeah.
What happened to his mother?
I have no idea. I never heard.
Did she pass away early, or?
Before I ever knew anything about the McKelvins, Mrs. McKelvin just was not there.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about what he did when you did know him.
Well, he when he was still in school, he, like the rest of us back during the Depression, hung around uptown. He sometimes worked, and thinking about it, he probably was not paid for working in Bootlegger Penland's filling station. And Methodist preacher here one time addressed Bootlegger as Brother Bootlegger. So, but the boys hung around Brother Bootlegger's station, and which was right about where the Citgo station is right now, at the corner of Carter Street and Main Street. I have seen him sweeping out automobiles, and he was apparently just doing it for the owner. He also was sort of in charge of some baseball bats, gloves. When we came in after school, would get out in Carter, what is now Carter Street. There was no courthouse there. And we would knock flies to each other and play a little pitch and catch, and there wasn't enough room. We didn't have a baseball diamond, but we played with the baseball, and Lloyd was more or less in charge. But,
did he do any other jobs?
I don't know if he was still in school, but he did work at the Lanier County News, and I think his father did too. And he set type, hand set, letter by letter by letter, the type. And once in a while we get one upside down. But it would be printed in the Lanier County News as he set the type. And I was with a school group one time that went to the news office to learn something about the Lanier County News, and he was setting type at that time, and come to think about it, his father was in there. So I'm assuming his father was a typesetter at the newspaper also. I don't know, can't think of any other work that he ever did.
What was the age difference between both of you?
Pardon?
What was the age difference between both of you? How much older was he?
I imagine he was 6 years older than me, at least 6 years. I think he should have finished high school, say, in 1940, I finished in 1944. But before he finished high school, he joined the Army. That's, of course, another story.
So he wasn't drafted?
He was not drafted, no. He volunteered and through the recruiting office in Valdosta. He was placed in the infantry, and World War II started, and he was sent to the European theater somewhere. It could have been North Africa because he did go early. And I have had the story all my, ever since 1943, that he was killed in action in Italy. And his memorial in the Lakeland cemetery says he was killed in Germany. That may be right, but I always heard killed in Italy. And he is buried there. They did not bring his body home. He had been in 2 or 3 or 4 years, but he was still a private. He just didn't care to take on the responsibility to be my guest. Yeah. Yeah.
Now he kind of has a unique sort of grave. He kind of has a unique grave in the cemetery. Can you kind of explain that to me?
That was placed there by his stepmother. His father married this lady, I believe she was from Homerville, and a lady of some means. And when Mr. McKelvin died, he is apparently buried right there at that tomb. The marker, the memorial to Lloyd McKelvin, PFC Lloyd McKelvin, is facing south. Every other tombstone in the cemetery is facing east, as is tradition. And this was just placed there to let people know that Lloyd McKelvin was from Lakeland and had died in the war, and there was no other marker anywhere to tell the future generations that he was a Lanier County boy who died for his country.
So, how did you find out that Lloyd died?
Either by reading it in the Lanier County News, or my parents may have told me, or I may have heard it in the Lakeland barbershop.
In the barbershop?
That's where all the news transpired.
That's where you would hear about a lot of those things?
Yeah, a lot of it in here and in the drugstore. It could have been anywhere that I may have circulated, and I did a lot of circulating in the businesses around town.
Did you have a lot more of was there a lot more people talking like that, circulation like that more so back then?
Yes, I feel that when I was a teenager and before, that people were more communicative, you might say. We'd just come out of a very bad time in World War II, another bad time. We came out of the Depression. We weren't out of the Depression, but the war helped. It helped Lakeland in particular, Moody Air Force Base. But who knows? I was young.
Yeah.
Just don't know.
Okay. Now I'm gonna ask you about that. How did the war help Lakeland? How exactly?
All right, people were employed at Moody Air Force Base. They couldn't find a job anywhere else. They were out maybe dipping turpentine or picking cotton, and they dropped their cotton sacks and went to Moody Air Force Base to build the base in 1941 and 2. They were flying airplanes in 42 out there. And people were coming from Waycross, commuting daily from as far away as Waycross
To work on Moody. Or...
to work at Moody. That car holding 6 people would have 10 in it, and go into Moody from, say, Waycross. But Moody Field employed a lot of people. Our men, around the age of 25, were gone. They weren't here at all. And they were seeing something besides the cotton fields. They were in the Army, and well, in 41, we had 2 or 3 at Pearl Harbor, I understand, when the Japs hit, and where, that's all I can think of. A lot of them went in the Merchant Marine, the Navy, and a man was a little on the foolish side to go in the Marines. I back off on that. He wasn't too smart. The Marines, they had to work hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so Lakeland was kind of you didn't have any men between the ages of what, 25 and 30, 35?
I would say if they were physically able, everything between 25 and 35. By mid-1942, they were in uniform.
They were gone.
Another thing that we had here in Lakeland that made money, we had a governor. Mm-hmm. And the governor, the Atlanta newspapers commented on the governor being from Lakeland and said he had paved so much in Lanier County, paved so many roads, you had to go out of the county to dig fish bait. That was in the Atlanta paper, one of them. And of course the governor did pave just everything. He paved the road to Hay Harrow, was right through the woods all the way to Hummerville, Highway 37, to Willacoochee, and incidentally the Lakeland to Willacoochee Road during World War II, you could sleep on the center line and not be afraid of being run over. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely no traffic, gas rationing, the boys were gone to war, many reasons. But then there was just all night long, someone told me that lived up there years ago that go like a couple of 3 days, I see a car go on that road. But
well, is there anything else that you'd like to say just about the way things were during the war, or about Lloyd?
Well, there's so much that happened during the war that affected everybody here, you know. Maybe when Lloyd got killed, everybody was depressed. Now that Lakelandite was gone, particularly heavy depression. One named Henry Will Jones was killed in 1944, and way down in the South Pacific. He was a captain in the Marines, and he was a genuine hero. And he was a hero when he was here, before the war. And I think he was teaching school when he went in the Marines. But the whole town, I know, was depressed when Henry Will got killed. And I remember the last time I saw him, I was a night watchman for airplanes over on Courthouse Square in a little building that was over there, and had a telephone. All you had to do was pick it up. It was connected somewhere. And if an airplane came over, you told which way it was going and a basic description of that airplane. And of course, all the planes were Moody that we saw, twin-engine training planes. But that was another thing, that Henry Will Jones was home on leave and had on his dress blue uniform with the red stripe down the pants and white cap on. He was just really dressed up. he had had a date somewhere, and he had come in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he stopped there and visited with us. And that's, of course, the last time I saw him, and the next few days, I'm sure he went to the Pacific. But I did see him go over there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me and for talking.
All right, I apologize for not knowing more, but I figure I know as much or more than any living person here. Now, I'm about the oldest person around.
You are. Well, thank you again for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
86 years and 22 days. I'm counting.
Well, thank you for joining us. Look for our next installation of our Tell Me a Story series next month.